Assalamualaikum.
Like,
Welcome to Member Spotlight. We have with us Jaden Rowe today, founder of Fihri. Welcome, Jaden.
thank you so much for having me, Kashif.
All right. Looking forward to hearing your journey and where you are today. So please share with us how did you start and what you are doing now.
So I launched Fury a few years ago, a few years ago at this point. And really, it's because I'm a mom, and I'm also somebody who's tried to remove barriers for women and girls locally and globally for many, many years, many decades actually. So I I was a commissioner for the MetroWest Commission on the Status of Women, advocating for legislation in Massachusetts for women and girls. And it was at Women's Advocacy Day at the State House that I heard from eighth graders teaching sixth graders how to use toilet paper as period pads. And so I thought, how is this happening in Massachusetts? How is this happening in the United States? And so as a mom, I wanted more sustainable period products because 1 out of 5, uh, on average, one period pad will decompose on the planet 500 years. And so the ones we've curated will decompose in less than a year. So I launched Fairy really with the mission to end period poverty sustainably. We send humanitarian kits all over the world to 14 different countries, and we've just sent our last humanitarian aid to the women and girls in Gaza. As you can imagine, period poverty is just the inability to have access to feminine hygiene products every month, and globally 500 million women and girls are impacted every single month. And so our mission really is to just ensure that women and girls have access to education, access to going to work. And so we just want them to have sustainable period products.
Okay, all right. So thank you for doing all this great work. Share with us, you mentioned that you just sent a shipment to Gaza. So how big are the operations of your organization?
So we have partner organizations always on the ground. So we're working with the Jordanian Hashemite Charity Organization, and so we sent the kits over to them. And Saturday it arrived. I'm hoping. So we're waiting to see. We're waiting to hear back. Inshallah, it goes through the borders. But we're also partnering with the Palestinian Medical Relief Society as well. In Turkey last year, when there was an earthquake, we partnered with Turkish Airlines. And so there's various partner organizations. That's how we're able to do it. But Fury is really run by lots of volunteers here and globally.
Okay, all right. And so, of course, that's the cause that is near and dear to you. How many organizations are there like Fury who are providing this type of service?
So globally, there aren't a lot actually, and that's what I noticed. So in Massachusetts, there's a lot of really great organizations that do a lot of advocacy work. But in terms of focusing solely on feminine hygiene kits, there's not a lot of organizations. So typically, when there's a humanitarian need, we rightfully so think focus on we focus on food and we focus on shelter, but oftentimes the feminine hygiene kits are forgotten, and periods don't stop when there's war, when there's an earthquake, when there's floods. And so this is really near and dear to me. When I was actually a teenager, my parents are originally from Turkey. I was born in the United States, and we were in Turkey visiting family. And in 1999, we were in the earthquake that killed 17,000 people. And so after surviving that, I really wanted to dedicate my life to helping people in some capacity. And so that's why the humanitarian aid is really important to me. And I look forward to having a bigger impact and helping more people with the work that we do.
All right. And you mentioned that you were a commissioner in Massachusetts. And so are you still active on the policymaking side?
Fury does not do policy work. So I'm very adamant about that. I think there's a lot of really great organizations that solely focus on that. We do not. A lot of our youth ambassadors love advocacy, um,
Hmm.
but it's really important as a nonprofit to focus on the humanitarian relief. And certainly, we are always in favor of legislation that passes that will mandate free menstrual products. In schools, women's shelters, prisons. But as of right now, we don't do the advocacy work simply because it's we're not a lobbyist group.
Okay, all right. Sounds good. So, where do you see your organization in the next 3 to 5 years?
I would love for us to have tripled our impact. I would love for us to actually hire some refugee and displaced women to actually sew some of the reusable pads. So when there is a need, the women could actually make them and we could send them off. I would love to have headquarters in Turkey, in other areas of like in Muslim countries in other areas of the world. I the need is always going to be there, right? So women menstruate every single month. That's not going anywhere. And women having access to menstrual products, there's always going to be a need. And where Fury could really fill the gap is we could provide job opportunities for women in need while we're also providing reusable pads. Reusable pads, I think, is the best way to alleviate period poverty in war torn areas or women living in women who are displaced if they have access to water. The women in Gaza sadly do not have access to water. So that's why we're sending the one time use pads to them, the biodegradable pads by Viv. But my goal is really for us to have donations on hand so that we could actually pack the kits beforehand. And when we get the call that there's a need, and we get the call monthly that there's a need, that we're able to ship out thousands and thousands, so that we could just have a bigger impact.
Okay, all right. I see that you are not just providing those pads, but you are also into the product innovation. And are there other companies that are helping you with the product innovation, or you are doing all of it in-house?
So we curate the period products. So we don't do them in house. We've curated them. So we only use like small women-owned businesses typically because they're the ones that are sustainable. So we use Viv, we use Flow, we use like 100% organic cotton pads and biodegradable pads and tampons and panty liners. And so we I think the feminine hygiene market has a lot of innovation, has been innovative in the past 5 years. I think there's a lot more room for growth, but we need investors actually paying attention to this. So, in Kenya right now, there's a woman who is creating out of bamboo fibers period pads. In Europe, there's a company that is taking seaweed and turning them into tampons. And so, I think not I think if we could actually have investors investing in product innovation, we could see a lot more sustainable products that inshallah one day could actually eliminate period poverty, because as of right now there isn't a product on the market that could actually help women long term, that doesn't require water and that doesn't require to be inserted. So menstrual cups are a great way to alleviate period poverty, but that requires insertion, and that particular cup could last 10 years. But there's nothing else on the market right now that could help women. And we need R&D funds in order to do that.
Okay. All right. Are there any when we look at or U.S. government or any governments outside the U.S., are they allocating sufficient budget for this?
No. No. Again, when there's a humanitarian crisis, there's a big focus on food and shelter, and that's rightfully so. But I think women and girls get their needs get left behind. And so that's why education is really important. Education not only for women and girls about menstruation, but for boys too, for them to understand what is it, why it impacts their life. I mean, in the United States, 1 out of 4 students miss school because they don't have access to feminine hygiene products each month. That absolutely impacts the boys in the classroom. That impacts the male teachers. That impacts productivity. That impacts even the workplace, because a lot of students actually work after school. So this impacts our economy, and we need the support of the male population too to address this. And a lot of our policymakers are male, so there's a big education that needs to happen.
Okay, all right. So outside of Fihri, what are your hobbies or interests?
So I'm a mom. I have a 14-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old son. So my world revolves around them. um, and my son is a wrestler and plays tennis, and so I my happiness is with my family. I really love helping people. That's just part of who I am. So I also volunteer for the Northborough Junior Women's Club, and we do a lot of community service. I'm really interested in helping women with entrepreneurship. So I got my MBA at Babson. So there's a lot of women who want to start businesses and don't know where to start. So I actually, in my free time, love helping. I love helping people. That's what I love to do. So, um, and travel. I guess I could also say travel.
Okay, all right. No, so thank you for being here today, and thank you for doing all the great work that you are doing and being part of the journey with MCOB. Any other thing that you would like MCOB members or anybody else to know about you or Fairy?
I just would love anybody's support to help as many women as we can. So 500 million women and girls every month don't have access. And so if anybody's interested in donating, or we host period kit making events for businesses, nonprofits, and student groups. They're really fun activities, team bonding activities. So you could host one, and you just write inspirational messages on the reusable pouches. We stuff them and then we ship them to anywhere in the world that you'd like. So if anybody's interested in doing that, please contact us at wearefihri.com.
All right, sounds good. And the number that you quoted, 500 billion, how many of them are in the US?
So 1 out of 4 students in the US miss school. That's a great question. So thousands of students each month, but the biggest populations that are in need are the women, and also like in remote areas, right? In different areas of the world. I don't actually want to name them because people often like to pick specific continents that are in need, but really you could go to European countries, you could go to non-European countries, you could go anywhere on the map, and
Mhm.
there will be a need of women and girls who don't have access to period products. So really, it's everywhere, locally and
Yeah,
globally.
it's definitely not global. Like if we see it, it's in within US we have a need. So which is a developed country. So I would assume in any other developed country as well, there would be a need.
Yeah.
So thanks again, Jaden, for being here and sharing with us your story. Inshallah, looking forward to see your organization grow tremendously in the next year or so and provide the service that is much needed within our communities.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum.